Alrighty, so made a video on this a while ago, still getting questions, so I'm going to post another video because I happen to have them apart right now. What is a Keller ball joint? Why do I need it? What are the downsides, etc. So these are all the components that go into a Keller ball joint. It's a lot more complicated than a regular ball joint. As you can see, there's some extra pieces here, but they're very serviceable. So let me walk you through how they work. So the first thing you do is you take this piece. This is the main housing. This presses into your control arm or your knuckle like a regular ball joint. You can see that wear right there. That is where, that little bit of wear, that is the press fit. So that would press into your control arm. You can use a regular ball joint press, whatever. And then once it's in your control arm, you assemble the joint. And what I mean by that is you just press this piece in and then you put it together. So this goes through here, right? So that sits in there, right? That all looks pretty standard. Then this piece is your preload cap. I don't know what to call it. What else? This sits on top of here. Okay. And that's kind of like a regular joint now, but it goes farther than that. Then you screw this nut on. This nut does two things. It retains the ball joint in the control arm because it actually clamps down on your control arm. So you're not just relying on a little snap ring or a press fit. You actually have this big ass nut. It also gives you a surface to screw this in. This is your preload adjuster. So once this is screwed in and everything's torqued, it puts pressure down on this. You can see a little bit of wear there. So as your joint wears, you can take out any slop that may have happened by tightening that up. Now, as you can see, this joint's been on my Pioneer with portals for a while, and there's virtually no wear. So they have some very impressive metallurgy going on. This is some really hard, strong freaking steel. These things have hardly any wear, and yes, I did keep them very greased. So there is a grease zerk right there. I haven't had much luck with that grease zerk, so I pull the cap off and actually kind of disassemble it, clean it out, and re-grease it. That is the one downside with these joints. If you're going to run these joints, I recommend greasing them once a year. And the reason for that is the boots they come with aren't the best. So I installed these boots with a zip tie to give it the best possible seal. And you can see that they're holding grease pretty good, but a little bit of water does tend to get in these joints. The steel's really good. As you can see, there's no rust. But if you're going to go deep, you need to rebuild your Keller joints once a year. You'll probably never break them. You won't pull them out of the arms. You won't roll the snap ring off, right, because of the design. It's a really good design. This is pretty similar to Dirt Mafia. I think the Kellers were out first. These are Kellers. The reason I took them off is because this is a set of 2021 Kellers. So I ran them with my 2021 knuckles on my portals. When I took the portals off, I had to put regular ball joints back in. So that's why I have these Kellers laying around. If someone on the Patreon page needs them, shoot me an email. I'll make you a really good deal on them. Obviously, they're used. The nuts are a little tore up because I had to put them on with a hammer and chisel when I had them in the lowers. So I'd recommend putting some new nuts. It's just a standard nut. But very little wear in all of the surfaces, which is pretty impressive. This is the other one from the front. These are the front lower. These are the front uppers. I still need to tear them down and clean them. I'm about to do that next. But there's really no slop in them. And if you do get slop, like I said, you can crank down this preload adjuster and you can take the slop right out. But pretty good product. It's rare I find a product I like as much as these. Couple things were going on. So these are the Super ATV Atlas Pro arms, supposed to be the top of the line, yada, 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 whatever. Both of these nuts had loosened up a little bit and a huge puddle of mud dumped out of each tube. You can see some of it there. I've been wiping it up as I go. I might have a better clip of it, but it was just disgusting. So that means the threads in here are getting a little wore out. They actually looked okay because these arms are, only a couple months old. So I cleaned them out, greased the threads. My upper arm is about to come off because it's got a bunch of slack in it too. It's hard to see, but you can hear it. There's already play in these spherical bushings up here. And these are like the OEM style spherical bushings, but man, they ain't OEM because they didn't last very long at all. They are in better shape than these. Unfortunately, these aren't greasable, so I'm gonna take them apart and just to grease them. But long story short, really not happy with these arms. They're supposed to be the best. They still have shitty bushings, shitty adjustment mechanisms, and they're so fat that they actually rub my wheels. So yeah, just really annoying all the way around. Yes, I ran portals on them. That's going to accelerate the wear. However, they are the big beefy arms. They should be more designed for portals than anything else, you would think. But yeah, if you're gonna run these arms on your Pioneer, make sure you torque these bolts and nuts frequently. As the bushings wear, you gotta retorque them. Make sure you torque the big nuts on the arms, and make sure you retorque your ball joints after first installing them. All right, so changing out these ball joints, but it's a good chance to inspect my Atlas Pro arms. That one looks okay, right? This one looks disgusting. These arms, all these Super ATV arms are bad for getting this really nasty rust cancer inside the threads right there, and then your joint just falls out. Also, look at these shitty bushings. Look how much wear there already is on this insert. These haven't been on there very many miles. I need to grease them, obviously, but dude, this is why I hate these junk bushings. This thing has all kinds of slop in it. Look at that. Of course, that's loose. That's why it's rusting so much. So if you're gonna run these shitty Super ATV arms, you gotta grease these splines really good and constantly check the torque on these nuts. This one stayed tight. This one backed itself off, and they're just a pain in the ass in general. Not happy with these arms. Also, they rub the wheels because they're so fat. Yeah, so I'm gonna change out these Kellers for some traditional ones. I'll show you how I change ball joints. I do it all the time. Maybe that'll be helpful for someone. The Kellers are pretty easy because they're lock in. So you see how there's threaded there? It actually pinches the control arm. So the press fit isn't the only thing holding the ball joint in. You also have the clamp of that big nut. It also helps when installing them because the press fit usually isn't quite as tight on the Keller because it doesn't need to be. So I'm gonna press that one out, and then I'll show you how I put the new one in. Obviously the new ball joints are currently in the freezer. This is just a cheapo Amazon ball joint changer. It comes with everything you need for Kellers. It's pretty easy. You can kind of see how I got it chucked up there. Just put that big spacer on the bottom, and then boom, press the Keller inner right out, no problem. I'm gonna clean these up, but they're actually in pretty good shape. As long as you keep them greasy, these things last forever. All right, so pressing in the new ball joint, get a little creative. Everyone's a little different, but I usually have the ball joint threads stick into here, away from the screw, and then find some way to space everything up where you can press it in without damaging the threads. I also like to spray a little light penetrating oil like PB Blaster around here to help it go in smoothly. That ball joint just came out of the freezer, and now all I gotta do is hit this with the impact and run it in, hopefully. Go nice and slow and make sure it's going in straight. Only good way I can find to torque this thing is to take the axle out and come in here with a thin wall 21mm socket. Honda just didn't aug out the bottom of the knuckle big enough to put anything else in there. Real pain in the ass. The nut that comes with the Keller's a 22, and they really can't get a socket on that at all. This is a 21, and you can see there's just enough room.